What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Talk Podcast. Today we'll be talking about the Game 2 of Boston Celtics versus Cavs and Dallas Mavericks versus OKC Thunder. Let's get into it. Starting off, we got the Boston Celtics versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs had a major comeback after a disappointing Game 1. They were able to dominate on the Celtics' home floor. To be honest, I'm surprised the Cavs were able to put up a fight like this. I thought the Celtics was just going to have their way with them and sweep them easily. Everyone on the Cavaliers was cooking. Donovan Mitchell had 29 points, Darius Garland had 14, Caris LeVert had 21, Evan Mobley had 21, and Max Strus had 12. The Boston Celtics, on the other hand, had a terrible game. Tatum had 25 points, Brown had 19, Al Horford had 11, Derek White had 10, and Jrue Holiday had 4. Watching this game, I felt like the Celtics was just forcing so many threes. At the end of the game, they were only 8 for 30 from three-pointers. Jason Tatum was the only Celtics player with 20-plus points. And I guess they were expecting either Derek White or Jaylen Brown to have 20-plus points as well. Jason Tatum finally knows what it's like to carry a team. Throughout the playoffs, he was usually getting carried by either Derek White or Jaylen Brown. The Celtics have to get their act together, or else this series might be over in 5 or 6. I asked one of my friends on his opinion on Game 2.
So, Game 2 of the conference semifinals with the Celtics and the Cavs. Let's discuss that. That was a very mediocre game for the Celtics, at best. At best. The Celtics only had one player in 20-plus points, which was Jason Tatum. The role players didn't play well. And that's the thing about this Celtics team. When the role players don't play well, aren't efficient, not hitting their threes, because Celtics is a team that lives and dies by the three. So when the Celtics can't get that three ball going, they usually don't win most of the time unless they have a Kristaps to make up for it and get that inside game going for them. But they don't have Kristaps, so that's one place where they're really weak at. But the Cavs really took advantage of that. On the other flip side, the Cavs, they're really a good team, especially when their role players play well. As in Caris LeVert, alongside with Donovan Mitchell. Caris LeVert, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, all those guys, when they start to play well, Max Strus, when they start to play well, hit shots, get into rhythm, then the Cavs are seemingly a more difficult team rather than when it's just Donovan Mitchell trying to carry the load like he was with Utah, but coming here. It's something that, he can do. He can carry the load, but how far will it get them is the question. It won't get them to wins. It can get them competing with almost anyone, but it won't get them wins. They won't overcome, as the workload placed on Donovan Mitchell will be too much for him to carry when it comes to those late games in late playoff scenarios. But other than that, besides that, the Cavs role players play well. They hit the shots. They got into the rhythm. And that's ultimately the reason why they blew out the Celtics in Boston for Game 2. Game 3, we'll see about Game 3. But Game 2, they blew them out.
Up next, we got the Dallas Mavericks versus the OKC Thunder. After a disappointing Game 1, the Dallas Mavericks were able to fight back in Game 2 and have now tied the series 1-1. Even though OKC was able to take Game 1, I still feel like the Mavericks are going to beat the OKC Thunder in 5. The OKC Thunder have a nice young squad, but they don't have the experience to make it far in the playoffs.
Now for the OKC Thunder versus the Mavericks, the Mavericks came out with more energy than they did in Game 1. Kyrie Irving only had 9 points, but he had 11 assists. They used him as a decoy this game, try to get other players going as they did, which they capitalized on well. They got P.J. Washington going with 29 points. Luka obviously had his 29. Derek Lively got going. When these other guys get going, besides Kyrie Irving, because when Kyrie Irving gets going, the Mavericks are already unstoppable at that. But when they put Kyrie Irving in that playmaking role, they really took advantage of that. And the Thunder didn't know what to do. They got exposed for how young they are. Like I said, they're a very mature team, but they got exposed for how young and how, inexperienced their team is. Shea put up his good numbers, but other than that, there wasn't really no bright spots for the Thunder all game. The Mavericks seemingly looked like they were going to take the win either way, and when it came down to crunch time, Luka started hitting the shots, even though he got banged up in the knee. He said all over after the game, but banged up in the knee, especially because you saw his knee was bleeding. But he still overcame and hit shots, timely shots, which really killed the OKC crowd, which is a very big factor for them because when OKC's crowd gets going, they're really seemingly unstoppable team and a team that you really have to fight and claw to beat when OKC plays at home. So good job by the Mavericks shutting out that OKC crowd, and we'll see you in Game 3 when it shifts back to Dallas, because Dallas is going to be rocking. Brought back one win from OKC. Dallas is going to be rocking. We'll see how Shea responds, and we'll see if Luka and Kyrie and the rest of the role players from the Mavericks continue to step it up.